What's up, football fans? Welcome to another episode of the Believe in Big Ten podcast presented by FanDuel. I am Brandon Brown, joined as always by Grant Perry. And Grant, we are officially at the end of the regular season. It's rivalry week. That's always tough to say. Rivalry week across the nation. I'm usually unbiased. I usually roll in. I'll have a gray shirt on. I'll have a black shirt on. I'll have a white shirt. Not today. And look at you, the Michigan grad who played at Michigan. Keeping it neutral, a little white sweatshirt, but we all know where the allegiance is at, Grant, and obviously a huge one between Michigan and Ohio State this weekend with Big Ten championship and playoff implications, all the above. We'll get into all of that, but Grant, as we are at the end of the regular season here, there's jockeying going on still, a lot of it. 4 teams still very alive to make it to the Big Ten championship. Number 1 team in the country, number 2 team in the country, undefeated, Ohio State and Indiana. Like, it's a good time to be a fan of the Big Ten and to watch some Big Ten football this weekend.
Yeah, it is. I mean, and you talk about, this new landscape and, are these games going to matter? And we're late in this season and there's literally 4 teams that are sitting here with some have the destiny in their own palms. Ohio State and Indiana have they can just do what they do and they can seal the deal. But Oregon and Michigan sitting on the outside looking in with the ability to somewhat control their fate. And then, a little bit of reliance on some other factors. So, I mean, talk about having a weekend of, the last week of the year, the week prior to conference championships. Like it's that time and it matters and it matters to a lot of teams. And I can't wait, dude. It's going to be a great weekend.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, like you said, Ohio State, Indiana sitting there at 11-0 seem like they're on a collision course to meet each other. 12-0, 12. Like that's crazy. Like that's possible. And that looks like probably the most likely outcome, but it's not the only outcome. As you said, they do control their own destiny. If they take care of business, that's it. They're in there and they're playing each other. But there's a team in Ann Arbor that has had Ohio State's number for 4 years in a row now when they didn't have any business having their number, especially last year. The other years you can make an argument. I believe Michigan, maybe I could be wrong on this, but I believe they were the underdog each year that they won, I think. Even though they were really, really good and, ended up winning the national title a couple of years ago and et cetera. So that one certainly isn't decided. I mean, I think a lot of people view Ohio State as the best team with the best defense and crazy weapons on offense, but Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate, a little dinged up. We'll see how that plays out. And then with Indiana, they've just been trucking everybody all year and they're playing Purdue and they're not going to lose to Purdue. I mean, it would be just an absolute bomb of a development if the Boilermakers were able to knock off the Fighting Signettis. I think, didn't they win like 66-10 or something last year against Purdue? It was something crazy.
Yeah, if anyone's holding hope that Purdue is the team that causes the little bit of mayhem this weekend, I hope you are not banking on it, because I mean, Indiana are a train that has not stopped once this year, man. And they've proven, I mean, close game at Penn State, close game at Iowa. Like they've proven that, they can win those close games.
Blowouts. I mean, they've had it all.
They can do anything. Yeah. They're elite.
So, but there are 4 teams alive. Mathematically, still 4 teams alive. Ohio State, we've mentioned a couple times already, number 1 in the country, undefeated. So obviously 8-0 in the conference play. Indiana, same thing, undefeated, 11-0, number 2 in the country. 8-0 in conference play. They will play Purdue on Friday night. No. It's not happening. But
Friday night, though, I mean, if anything happens on weird times, it's those Friday night games.
Could be weird. Oregon sitting at 7-1 in the conference with just their only loss to that Indiana team in Eugene. That was a big one several weeks back. We talked about it at length at that time. Like, okay, if Indiana's really for real, they won every game up to that point, obviously, like, all right, like Indiana's winning, but like, let's see them go do it in Oregon. And they did. They went in, they beat the Ducks on their home field. And that, not to say that was like when they arrived, because they were really freaking good last year and they had been impressive up to that point this year. But you go all the way out west and you go to Autzen and you get a win. And that was kind of like a damn, like Indiana's like we knew they were good, and yeah, they're winning game, but like, okay, they're as good as anybody in the country. Like that's what it felt like after that win.
Yeah. And going into this year, that was, we tried to come up with another Indiana, like, hey, who's going to have that kind of Cinderella story? And Indiana just, I mean, they came back and they just said, hey, like, this was, this wasn't a fluke the first year, and the second year we're going to be even better. And Signetti's going to really put his stamp on Indiana, and he has, man. And Fernando Mendoza, we talked about quarterbacks. We've ranked quarterbacks, and we mentioned Fernando Mendoza, but I don't think we regarded him or thought that he was going to have this type of year in which he's regarded as a Heisman candidate. Really, I mean, competing to be the number one team in the country, it's mind blowing. And I'm sure even more for you, like having been around and known the sport a little and watched the Big Ten a little bit longer than I have. But like even for me, and having a few years under you, like it's Indiana who, like what? And I can't. I mean, I played some close games against Indiana. Like we had a 4 overtime game where J.U. Chess, won us the game. Had like 3 touchdowns, and Jake Rudock was throwing the ball over the place. But like for them to be doing this 2 years in a row, and this year everyone's sold, and there's no real question about it. It's uncharted waters, and I guess this is just where we're headed with this new landscape, and you never know what team is gonna really pick up its coaches it's stuff, and really roll with it.
Yeah, no disrespect, but you're right. I mean, Indiana, number 2 undefeated, it just doesn't roll off the tongue. It just doesn't. But I'm a big fan of Curt Cignetti. I like watching Indiana. They're fun to watch. They make plays on defense. You mentioned Fernando Mendoza, the running backs by committee, but Roman Hemby, and then the wide receivers. They've got a couple really good receivers that make plays, Cooper and Surratt. So like they seem to have it all, and they're not a fluke. You don't do this 2 years in a row. You don't beat teams by 50 in conference if it's a fluke. So, and like you said, close games on the road, beating good teams on the road, like that's how you establish yourself as a legitimate team, and they've done that. So back to Oregon. That's Oregon's lone loss is to that Indiana team. They're sitting at 10-1. They're number 7 in the country. They will take on Washington in Seattle. That is not a gimme, Grant. That's not a gimme. Obviously, Oregon needs to win and then get some help in order to make the Big Ten championship. We'll get into the scenarios in just a second. And then you've got Michigan. Started a freshman quarterback from the beginning. Bryce Underwood has been really good at times. He's looked like a freshman at times. They've won some close games against teams that you'd think that shouldn't be a close game. At home against Purdue, on the road against Northwestern, you needed a last-second kick to get the win. So you wonder what Michigan team will show up against Ohio State this weekend. They do get the Buckeyes at home. I believe they're 9 or 10. I think it was 10.5 or 9.5 point underdogs the last time I looked on FanDuel. I think it was 11.5, maybe even at one point. So it's come down a bit, maybe because Michigan looked pretty damn sharp against Maryland on the road. Probably the best they've looked all year. Complete game. Seemed to have some things fixed in the punt return and special teams game a little bit by moving freshman Andrew Marsh back there. He's been phenomenal. Bryce Underwood threw the ball around maybe more than he has all season. And we'll see what happens in the running back room. They've been dinged up. But on the other side for Ohio State, they're also dinged up with Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate, as I mentioned. So, I mean, Grant, I've been covering Michigan for more than a decade. You're a homegrown Michigan kid, and you played for the Wolverines. We could obviously talk about that game alone for well over an hour. We'll try to keep it to a minimum since we have other things to discuss in terms of the Big Ten and the Big Ten title game. But it's the game.
It's the game, dude. It's the game, man. It's regarded with the games of the games, man. It's it's a tradition that I was very thankful and blessed to play in, but unfortunately, like I came out with 0-4, man. My time going against Ohio State, man. Ohio State, they got dudes that are still in the NFL, balling. Man. It's crazy. I went through a buzzsaw of Ohio State ballers, man. But man, that game is it holds a near and dear place in my heart, man, because it's just there's something about the air when you step on that field, versus Ohio State. I don't know why, but for me, it always feels gray and cloudy, and like it just time is moving slow, but the game moves slow, but it moves fast, and I can't even explain it. Like 2016 JT was short game, like that was probably my best game, one of my best games, of my career, but one of my probably my best game versus Ohio State. Had a few catches, a couple first down conversions, and like total, like talking about blacking out. Like I'd catch the ball, like run, make a guy miss, and I wouldn't even remember doing it. Like just like it is a different atmosphere. And I want to say that this is Michigan's biggest in the past few years. This is their biggest underdog like spread, right? Like this is
Yeah.
like,
I mean, maybe going back to, well, no, I mean, last year, I think
yeah,
they
what
were
were they? Yeah, what was it last
13
year?
and a half, maybe 21. It might have even been 21
Yeah,
last
you're
year.
what you're right.
They had
Last year,
no business winning last year. None.
like damn, that's
But but to your point, it's been close for the, you know, before they won the first one and then 21, 22, 23.
Yeah.
Those were all close spreads because Michigan was really freaking good. And so was Ohio State. So yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So this one, again, feels like Michigan's not supposed to win, but you know, it's the game and they'll play it out.
And like you know, I don't know, because you look at the spread and you try not to, you know, because this is your team and this is the team that we cover, and you know this is the, you know, the team that we've covered all year and team we have a little bit of bias for, but you know you tend to look at you try to look at the spread and you know you tend to say, oh damn, what does Vegas know usually, and like damn, double digit, like okay, like all right, they're definitely favoring Ohio State, you know, but there is something about having a mental edge that I think that Michigan is hopefully going to harness in this game. And, you know, I think some of the cards are lining up. You know, there might be some snow. It might be cold. You know, the run games might have to come alive. And that tends to usually favor Michigan, even though I do really like Bo Jackson and Peoples over there at Ohio State, man. They can run hard and fast. And Bo's only, I think, a freshman too. So, like, he's got a really good future ahead. And you know, like the Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate, like questionable, like things are kind of like
As a wide receiver, you must love those. I mean, I know they play at Ohio State, but dude, they're so good.
Those two, I mean, it's insane. And it's crazy because Jeremiah Smith is so darn good and everyone talks about him and everyone talks about Carnell Tate, but like Carnell Tate, I think he's going to be the first or second receiver off the board this year. Like, and I literally, I have a ongoing thing that I'm going to start doing until it fails. But for my fantasy league, I'm gonna start drafting these Ohio receivers early because Jackson Smith and Jigba on track for 2,000 yards. It's insane. So like I might draft Carnell Tate this year. I think he's a first round talent. And it's just it's getting overshadowed by the monster that's 2 years, 3 years younger than him.
Yeah,
it's crazy, but. You know, so thinking about the game and you know what the outcome's going to be, like Ohio State has been the better team this year. Like they have played better. They have shown that they have been a better team on defense, offense, like you name it. They have shown it and they have proved it against good competition, and they're undefeated. You know, but I was saying there is something about a mental edge that I do like Michigan having, and you know, can Ryan Day win this game? He can win every other game, but like this game is just something. It's his kryptonite, it's his crux, and you know, with the possibility of Jeremiah and Carnell not going, with you know, with the snow possibly being a factor, I like my chances more and more with Michigan. You know, as the years gone on, I've been like, man, I don't see how we get done, and we said the same thing last year, and that gives you a little hope too. It's like, hey, well, we did it with Davis Warren and you know, essentially no quarterback and just a run game in Ohio State. So like, why couldn't we do that with Bryce at home? So that gives me hope. But the Ohio State's a damn good team, man. So you know, this is going to be. I think this will be the toughest one we've had in these past few years. Not to say that any other of these other games haven't been tough, but this feels like this is going to be one of those games where like everything has to go right, or we just have to be on the you know, our P's and Q's the whole game.
I think that's very fair. I'm not writing Michigan off and giving them zero chance because they have a better chance this year than they did last year, in my opinion. You know, I think that's pretty factual, like you said, the quarterback situation alone. But yeah, I mean, if I was forced to pick, I'm picking Ohio State. Like I don't think, you know, I can take the sweatshirt off and be completely objective and look at the two teams and say, like, I think Ohio State's better. But all of those things you just mentioned, the mental edge, the fact that Ryan Day just seems to be shaking in his boots whenever this thing starts on, you know, every November, and the fact that I put this in an article last night over at Roundtable. Joel Klatt broke this down, Grant. Not one player on Ohio State's roster has beat Michigan. and not one player on Michigan's roster has lost to Ohio State. That matters. That matters. And Ryan Day, I did a podcast for Roundtable as well, where I talked with Brendan Gulick, who is the really, really smart, knowledgeable, great analyst reporter that covers Ohio State. And he talked about how Ryan Day is taking, it's always been very serious, and like they just every day Michigan, we focus on Michigan, we want to kill Michigan. And this year he said that Ryan Day was like more like subdued and a little more chill. I'm like, bro, he sounds like the guy that's going out on the first date with the girl that he's had a crush on for 10 years, and he's like, it's cool, I'm cool, like I'm good. He's trying to like psych himself. Like, that's what I thought when he said that. I'm like, I can't believe he's having to like change his whole mood and his whole demeanor.
Bro, act cool.
Yeah, it's good. You smell? What is that? Like, that's I pictured Ryan Day like that. My mind while he was talking like went to a cutaway like in a movie, and that's what I saw. Yeah. So, and that's not me saying that. That's an Ohio State guy saying that Ryan Day has had to visibly and noticeably change his tone, his demeanor, the way he speaks about Michigan. I don't know if it affected anything they did in practice or their approach or what they're doing, physically or on the field, but like they're in his head. There is no doubt that they are in his head, and that proved it to me. So I just thought that was really crazy. All right, like I said, well, you and I could go an hour on this, so we better shift the gears a little bit here, or we're not going to get to the rest of the stuff. So we've talked about the 4 teams that are alive, Grant. Ohio State, Indiana, obvious, 11-0, cruising, look like they're going to meet in a great undefeated battle in the Big Ten in Indianapolis, but we'll see. Oregon sitting there and has to win and needs some help, and Michigan has to beat a very, very good Ohio State team and also needs some help. So the scenarios are for each team, Grant, to clinch and make it to the conference championship game. Ohio State reaches the Big Ten title game if they beat Michigan. That's it. They, like you said, a couple teams with everything in their own palms. They need no help. They just got to do what they got to do. Michigan goes down. Ohio State is in. Or there is another scenario. Purdue beats Indiana and Washington beats Oregon. Very unlikely, but technically on paper is still possible. So, Grant, those 2 scenarios, Ohio State just beats Michigan and they're in, or Purdue beats Indiana and Washington beats Oregon. Thoughts on the Buckeyes? Like, I mean, they got to feel pretty good, right? They got to.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, this is pretty far and not far, but this is pretty self-explanatory. Like, you just sit your team down and you say, hey, we have one goal. Coming in this year, we have a couple goals. One is win the conference championship. We want to win the Big Ten. We want to win the national championship. We want to beat Michigan. And right now we have the opportunity to beat Michigan and go to the conference championship. Like, what more do you have to sell to your team? To get ready? If you're Ryan Day, obviously things haven't gone right for you, but I mean, you're in a position to where, like, talk about needing motivation. Like, you're an 11-0 team. Like, sometimes an 11-0 team, you're probably worried, like, oh, these guys, like, hey, like, we have our biggest test, and this is a test that we haven't been able to pass. Like, I know those guys are fired up, maybe a little nervous, but definitely fired up. And so simple. Like, you just go and beat a team and you're in. So, and that's so hard. That's so easy to explain to your team. And I'm sure those guys have, drilled it into their heads all week and all year.
Yeah, well, the simplicity is there for Indiana as well, and they're sitting the prettiest, Grant. They beat Purdue, they're in. That's it. You go beat a bad Purdue team that I think I'll check the spread as you're talking maybe over on FanDuel, but that's it. Indiana beats Purdue and they're in, or Ohio State beats Michigan. They need, it's the same thing. There's others, you get into the weeds a little bit, but again, same thing. Go take care of business. Indiana beating Purdue, you're in. That's all you got to do.
And that spread definitely has to be at least
28.5, by the way. Yeah. There you go. My FanDuel. There you go.
I would say at least 4 touchdowns. Like, it's Purdue. I would definitely want to be Indiana in this scenario, though. If Indiana wins, they're in, and if Ohio State wins, they're in. Like, Ohio State, you got your biggest test of the year. You're the test that you haven't been able to pass in the past couple of years. And Indiana, like, that may be a rivalry, but I don't know. Like, Indiana's got that one in the bag as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, and they also, because they hold the tiebreaker, the head-to-head matchup with Oregon, if they somehow manage to lose to Purdue, which just seems unfathomable at this point, if Ohio State beats Michigan, they're also in. So like they are certainly sitting
pretty.
4 teams.
Yeah.
Oregon, they have one path, Grant. They're probably the least likely, I guess. Michigan's got a couple different paths, but they're both very tricky. But Oregon only has one way to get in. The only way Oregon's in is if they beat Washington and Michigan beats Ohio State. That's it. Both of those things have to happen. They have to take care of business in Seattle, and Michigan needs to knock off the Buckeyes in order for Oregon to make the Big Ten title game.
Boom.
That's it. I mean,
I mean, that's one where you got to go out and do your job and beat Washington, but you also got to count on Michigan, to beat Ohio State there. So I mean, that's tough, but and Michigan's in the same boat. They have an extra little avenue that they could slide in, but if you're Dan Lanning, there's nothing else you can say besides, guys, we got to go do our job, and if the cards fall where they fall and they let us in and we get in, we'll take that opportunity and roll with it. But they'll definitely, if they win and they're in, they'll not win and they're in, but if they win, make the playoffs, they'll definitely use that motivation as like, hey guys, like, remember watching that game on the couch? Yeah. Like let's go win this whole thing now. So that could be a scary Oregon team come playoff time, especially, coming off a Washington win. And if they don't get in, a little bit of motivation, and that Dan Lanning Ducks team could be one to watch here late in the season.
No doubt. And then last but not least, Michigan, it starts with them. They have to beat Ohio State. That's job number one, but they do have 2 scenarios. Although again, the Purdue over Indiana thing just seems like such a long shot at this point, but Michigan has to beat Ohio State. If they do that and Washington beats Oregon, they're in. And if Michigan beats Ohio State and Purdue beats Indiana, they're in. So in other words, if those 2 other, which would end up being 1 loss, Oregon's got 1 loss now, they'd have 2. Indiana has no losses right now, they'd have 1. And I guess Michigan would somehow have the tiebreaker over Indiana. I think then it would go down to maybe common opponents or something. I'm not sure exactly how that would happen, but because at that point Indiana would only have 1 loss, and so would Michigan, but Michigan would get in over the Hoosiers. So that, again, long shots here. You want to be in Ohio State's shoes and you want to be in Indiana's shoes. Take care of your business and you are in.
Mm-hmm.
With Michigan, with Oregon, you need a little help. And, it happens. It certainly does happen, but it seems like a little bit more of a long shot when you've got to depend on somebody else. And especially in both of those situations where you need the underdog to do something, unheard of or very unlikely. So that's where they are all at. Technically, Oregon and Michigan both have a shot, but they need help, and they need help from dogs.
Mm-hmm.
And with the Ohio State and Indiana, just go out on Saturday or Friday for Indiana and take care of business. And that's it. So you've got 4 teams alive, several great games this weekend. I mean, Oregon, Washington should be a pretty fun game to watch. I mean, that's not a gimme, especially
no, it's not.
Washington.
Yeah. Dan Lanning's 1-3 versus Washington.
There you go. Michigan hosting Ohio State. Yes, Ohio State, very good. Favored, not a gimme. Sorry, Purdue. That's a gimme. I think Indiana will run away with that one. But we'll see. You got to play them because that's the only way that you're going to sort this thing out. Grant, I'm pumped, dude. I mean, Friday night, I'm going to be watching Purdue and Indiana. I'm going to be watching. I want to see what that looks like. I want to see how ready and how powerful Indiana truly is. I've managed to catch them a little bit here and there, but this one's obviously a big one. I don't know if they want to send a message. I'm curious to see what that looks like. And then certainly on Saturday, Michigan, Ohio State, and then, Oregon, Washington. Those are good quality opponents squaring off with lots and lots of stuff on the line. You can't ask for anything else in late November, Grant. You can't do it.
You can't do it. And let me ask you this. So for that Friday night game, Purdue, Indiana, do you see that game trending more towards Indiana versus Penn State or Indiana versus Illinois?
I think they're gonna wax them. I would take them to cover the 28.5. I think they're gonna win by 30, 40 points.
Okay.
I've seen Purdue in person up close. Watching Michigan barely beat them in the big house. But dude, Indiana, when they got a mission at hand, they come in like a machine, dude. I'm just thoroughly impressed with Kurt Signetti, his staff, and the Hoosiers and the way they get up for games, dude. I'm like I said, I'm not an Indiana fan, but I am. Like, that's what you want every program to be. Do more with less, play out of your mind, do things correctly, don't make mistakes, and rattle the other team. They just seem to do it every week, man. It's been a crazy 2-year run for the Hoosiers.
It has, and I'm here for it, man. Like, let's go, dude. Let's make the Big Ten solid. Like, let's have these juggernauts come out of nowhere. Let's have more Signettis. Like, let's see. I'm excited to see who Penn State hires. Like, exciting times ahead for the Big Ten for sure.
No doubt about it. He is Grant Perry. I'm Brandon Brown. There's a solid 25 minutes. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody out there. If you're a Lions fan, let's cheer for that Honolulu Blue a little bit too. I'm sure there's some Big Ten people out there that care about the Leos a little bit. So, Grant, thanks so much for your time, man. We'll be back next week to talk about how all this stuff shakes out and get a preview of that Big Ten title game. Thanks.